Hello and welcome to another edition of Video Games to the Max. I'm your host Sean Garmer, here with me as usual, Mr. Marc Morrison.
Howdy.
Oh, this is episode 423 of the show. And on this evening, we're going to have Marc's almost done with platinuming Metaphor ReFantazio. Still can't talk about the game that I'm playing, but hopefully next week. We'll talk about WB Games narrowing its focus to franchises they already do games on. Is the era of open world and big games being the central focus coming to an end? Is it a surprise Death Stranding is finally on Xbox? We'll talk about all that stuff and more right after I can find the intro part.
You are listening to Video Games to the Max.
All right, so just to go ahead and get this out of the way here, the housekeeping for the episode, whether it's your first time watching or listening, or it's you've done this several times now, we do appreciate you. We do the show live around this time on Mondays, so if you want to tune in on around the 7 o'clock time on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, W2 Network, we're on there. And if not, you can always watch on demand later on the YouTube channel, which you subscribe there. You get everything we do, which it's not only here on the video game side. We do anime, which you can go watch the Otaku Cafe folks. Those guys do a great job basically reviewing a lot of the new anime that comes out each season. So go check them out. A lot of great anime coming out this season, so that I've been watching. So for sure, if you're like me, been watching some good stuff, go check them out. They do a great job. Of course, you can listen to all those on podcasts. Also on the entertainment side, you got the Radler Broadcasting folks. They do a great job as well. And anytime that there's a new movie, TV show, pretty much, even comics and things like that, they keep up with that. Not so much this week because there hasn't been like a big new release really, but they did do the Venom review for that movie, so be sure to check out that, or even them talking about the old 2001 Pearl Harbor movie, which your care of that movie may vary. So yeah, they talk about a little bit of everything. So another reason why to subscribe to the channel. And of course, again, you can always just, if you like to listen to things with your ears, do that on there as well. So I guess it's not a whole lot we're playing this week. But
I have something to talk about.
yeah, I've only been playing that I could talk about Pokemon, the TCG, could just continue with that. That continues to be a cool little thing I could check out each day. Not much different from week to week, I think, until they start releasing like new card packs. It's not going to change much for people. The battling is fine if you like that, which again, it's easy to get into. So I've been enjoying doing that every now and then. I'm glad that they have the little missions you can keep doing, because if not, I just kind of check in to get the card pack, and then I probably wouldn't keep going with it. But keeps making that money. Not that Nintendo and Pokemon Company and all that need any more things to keep making money for them. But hey, good for them that they released something on phones that's not Pokemon Sleep or whatever, that's actually fun and playable. So yeah.
You take that back.
I'll next week I'll finally be able to talk about this game, which I know a lot of people are anticipating. So what's going on with Metaphor? You're almost done with a second run of it already.
Yeah, doing the like new game plus thing. So I beat the hard dragon, like the optional boss, which was not fun. There's an easy way to cheese them, but I didn't have that option.
Yeah.
Because you need like one specific item that I just didn't have a ton of. So it's like, oh, if you have 10 of these items, or if you have, I think it's like 20 of these items, you can basically have like the boss can't take a turn ever. I didn't have
Okay,
20
that'll
or
make it
20 of those items.
easy.
Yeah, so I kind of had to do it the normal way, which took about half hour, but
Yeah.
it was fine. I'm right near the end of that game again, so right after this, I'll probably submit my column for 411 and then go back at it. So the big thing I played is I hooked up my Sega Saturn, and I fired up that Castlevania Symphony of the Night version, and that is a miserable experience.
Why was it miserable?
First off, the Saturn controller sucks. It's just like really awkward to use. So the game is a port of the PS1 game that came out. I think it came out like a year after, and it wasn't done by Konami. It was done by someone else, I think. And it has a bunch of weird shit in it. So the one weird thing is Alucard has basically 3 hands or 3 equipment slots, like 2 for like weapons and shields and stuff, and then 1 for food. And it's like, why did they do this? Like, who okayed this? There's no like to pause the game or to get in the character menu, you press start. And on PlayStation, it takes a second to get into the menu. On the Saturn, it takes a little under 6 seconds, like 5.8 seconds. I timed it. And you wouldn't think that shit adds up, but it does, because it makes you not want to go into the main, the menu. That's also how you access the map. You have to go to the menu and then press the L button, and that brings the map up, because the Saturn didn't have a select button. What else? It doesn't play well. The 3D effects like drop kick the frame rate down dramatically. Like it plays okay for like 80% of the time, but when something 3D happens, it's like, nope, can't handle this at all. And the other fun thing, which I didn't know, I knew the Saturn had a battery. I thought it was for like the clock and the time, or the date and the time. Turns out it's also for saving games. So when I
Oh
would hit
wow.
save game, it would be like, all right, game saved. And then I unplugged the Saturn because I put it away for like the night. Went to
Yeah.
pick it up the next day and hit new load game, and it was like, what game? I was like, the game you said you were saving, you piece of shit. Like, and yeah, it's like some coin battery that's in the back, and like it would have been helpful if when I turned the system on, it was like, yo, dog, this battery's dead. You can't save. That that would have helped me
Yeah.
losing 3 hours of progress in the game.
No, for sure.
The one kind of benefit to the Saturn version is you can play as Maria, and she does play differently than the Dracula X PSP game. She plays a lot better. And she has like some cool music and moves. Like that's a game I know like back and front basically. Like I'm sure there are games like that you have.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, this is new to me,
Man, so I'm sorry to hear that it didn't go, and there's no way to get that back. Oh, you just lost it.
Right. The way I get it back is I bought a battery from the Dollar Tree, and I'm gonna put it in and replay it, and it'll really make that getting the rapier sword, having to kill this one enemy 75 times for it to hopefully drop, a lot more fun.
I hope so, man. That's the
Yeah.
funny. It's like you spend the money getting the game, the system, and everything, and it's like, oh, I need this battery from the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, and okay, so like the Saturn itself, it is region locked. Like it can't play
Right.
Japanese games normally, but even if you have an Action Replay plugged into the cartridge slot, it displays it. And the Action Replay can double as like a memory. It has like you can save games onto that as well. which is handy. Except the Symphony of the Night can't save it to that, and I can't the main method of doing it. You got to save it to the Saturn itself, and then copy it over to the action replay. And I'm like, this would have been helpful to know beforehand.
Right, yeah.
But I love I love Symphony of the Night, but it's just like that's a extremely weird port of that game. Let's say that.
Yeah, I mean, you have it on like basically almost everything else, right? So
there is apparently a Xbox 360 physical version of it. It came out in like some Konami arcade pack. I'm missing that one, but I have all the rest. And there's like I got like, North American PS1 copy, Japanese PS1 copy, PS4, and I think I got one of the Saturn one, and there's like one other one out there somewhere.
yeah, so it pretty much, I mean, at least it's not like something where it's like, okay, this is the only physical version of the game I have. So, if I want it, if you want to play it, you do have other options.
Oh yeah.
So,
but it's interesting to play. But yeah, the Saturn is. Oh yeah, the other Saturn game I picked this up like a few days ago. Street Fighter, the movie, the game.
Yeah, how was that?
People I have friends who actually defend the Saturn,
right,
and like call it a good system. I'm like, you guys are high, it is
definitely the amount of great games on that thing is few and far between. I guess.
I think it's like, if you have if you can import games and you have the memory expansion thing, and it's like, okay, that's not. I'm talking games that came out in America, like Clockwork Knight and Croc and shit like that. Like, this is a terrible system.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of those games are also like multi-platform, so it's not like they're even just only Saturn.
Right. But yeah, Street Fighter's bad. It's terrible. I mean, it plays like Street Fighter kind of, but it just doesn't feel right. I mean, I know the arcade version is even more fucked up because they like tried to do something new and it didn't go well at all. So like the home port, like the Saturn and PS1 copies, they're like, okay, we're just gonna make Street Fighter, but have it be these like digitized actors. It's like,
so it's not like it's not like the movie that's like, okay, it's one of those it's so bad it's good kind of things. It's just like it's bad.
Yeah, I mean it's functional enough, and I was able to like beat Jean-Claude Van Damme Guile with no name guy playing Ryu. I forget the guy's name, but so who cares?
I'll agree with you there.
Yeah.
Well, that it
news,
for
I
the.
guess. Yeah.
Sorry. Anything else?
Nope. On to the news.
Yes. On to the news here. I guess what a start here. Interesting that, I mean, it feels like every time we hear David Zaslav talk, it's usually something negative. That continues here. Talking about, and look, everybody did their earnings report. We're not a business video game podcast. There are others out there. So I know Sony and Nintendo and Xbox all did theirs. Not talking about that because it's just going up over a bunch of numbers. The only reason I'm bringing this up is because this has an effect on what games are going to come out from WB Gaming in the future. And David Zaslav is basically talking about between Suicide Squad and now Multiversus, they have lost $300 million.
Yep.
Multiversus is a $100 million hit on the company, which, to be fair, is partly their own doing because that game came out, was a big hit, and then they decided to shut it down because mess it up and decide that it wasn't making enough money. There wasn't enough monetization stuff in it. So they relaunched it to include that, and then removed a lot of the rewards and things like that that you got from the game, which was again another reason why people were, like, okay, if you're gonna take it away, at least we're still gonna have the same stuff that we had when you bring it back, right? Nope, it's not, and we're gonna like nerf characters and the other things, and it's like that's not really helpful for the people that want to keep playing your game. And then they just released characters, so it's not like they're like shutting down the game or anything like that. It's kind of like Suicide Squad. It's just going to keep rolling along, I guess, until they finally just announce one day that they're, taking it down. I would imagine. But
that'll be like 2 months from now, or be like, hey, it's only.
Listen, I don't
but...
want to wish on anybody because I'm sure that there are people that are big fans of Multiversus and want to have that game keep going. Not here to say any of that. Just the point of this is that due to these live service failures that we've seen happen with other companies that we talked about last week and various other times, they are not. David Zaslav was basically talking about very much like they've done with other things that they're sort of kind of narrowing their focus. They're not going to just try to go for the shoot for the moon kind of live service stuff. They're going to double down on what works for them, which is basically Harry Potter, Mortal Kombat, something DC related, mostly Batman, and Game of Thrones. The thing is, most of the games they already release are from those franchises anyway. So,
right, and their last 2 Batman projects have bombed spectacularly. Suicide Squad. Not Batman, but
the
DC.
VR game. I don't know that we can count.
I'm not
yet.
counting that.
Yeah.
I'm counting, Suicide Squad and then Gotham Knights.
Right. Yeah, which is actually weird because I saw a lot of folks like after Suicide Squad came out, they're like Suicide Squad kind of makes Gotham Knights like not look that bad.
Yeah.
And I know that there's people that will say that Suicide Squad was a functional game. It works, and it certainly does. It's a good time had by people that enjoy it. But
I think Jens played a good chunk of it, yeah.
But the underlying reception to this game is it wasn't good.
Right.
Or the fun doesn't last very long. And then basically you're back to the whole, there's no point of playing this, continue to play it. It's like the end game is kind of not there. And so then you have, what is it? You said Gotham Knights, that kind of had the same trappings too, right? Gotham Knights had a lot of live service type stuff that they eventually then took out to kind of just make it a game that exists by itself that you can just keep playing. But like other games that you do this with, that hurts the game in general because that game wasn't made to be that way, right? So now you have Hogwarts Legacy, which is like the one game that's sort of their standard bearer right now. It's sold up to like 30 million copies.
Yeah.
And now they're going to double down on that. Now they're having a second game come out that's going to tie in with the new series that's supposed to start in 2026, hitting Peacock and going out on all that. Considering how we've seen a lot of remakes do, where they come out and people they seem to mostly do well, right? You would think that this is same thing's going to happen. It doesn't matter, regardless of what people say about, oh, it's not going to have the original people and we don't want to support it and all this stuff. Just like with Hogwarts Legacy, people are going to support that thing. Do you think that going to this strategy now of saying we're going to focus on these 4, all the games that come out for the most part are going to be from these 4 franchises? You think this is going to help, or we're going to run the part of just it's going to be too much?
It'll be too much. And the problem with that philosophy is one of those franchises isn't great, and it's Game of Thrones. Like you can't make a game based on that. I know they've tried, but they haven't been successful. like the
Right.
Telltale game or like the strategy game and shit like that. Like no one cares about Game of Thrones that way.
Yeah.
Hogwarts, like Harry Potter, you can do a game, and they did do a good game, but they can't do like an annualized game. And that's, Mortal Kombat, they can kind of crap out every year or every 2 years. I mean, they should have kept up with that Mortal Kombat 1 year, DC 1 year game, or the strategy they had for like the 360. Like that worked kind of okay. It wasn't like great or wasn't perfect, but it was good enough.
Right.
Uh, their philosophy, if they were just like, okay, we're gonna focus on these games, we're gonna make them single player, medium budget to big budget games, and have them be good, that would be fine. Except for Mortal Kombat, I mean, that has like the whole like esports or multiplayer stuff. That's not that's not the problem. The
Right.
problem is they keep trying to shoehorn in these live service elements that no one cares or likes about.
Or the monetization
Yeah,
stuff they
like
do.
Mortal Kombat is terrible with that. I mean, it's still a functional fighting game, but like their whole like, oh, now you can their whole like weird online system of like, oh, it's invasions from other dimensions and shit like that. It's like, no, don't do it. Please don't. Like this was fine enough back then. Like I mean, it's their increasing desperation to monetize, but it's like your desperation is what's making this even like worse and worse. Like
Yeah, I
the
mean
reason,
that's part of it, right? Also, it's just like how much more are you going to? Obviously, I think if Harry Potter remains the way it is, I mean that should be fine. In that it's a single player only game. There's not really a whole lot you could do the sort of like the thing we see with Assassin's Creed, where you could do skins and
see
different
that
outfits and stuff that you can
I,
monetize or whatever. But
I don't mind that
yeah,
necessarily. Like if they sold like, oh, it's like, because I imagine another Hogwarts game will just be like set in that era, uh, or it won't be like Harry Potter specific, but they'll have maybe like one or two ties to like the current or the new show.
right,
But it won't be like a Harry Potter game. It'll be another era of Hogwarts. But they'll still sell like if they sold like a Harry Potter cosmetic pack or something like that. Like, fine, who cares?
right,
But if they, jam it completely full of like boosters or cosmetics or, here's the whole map or you have to buy for $5 or just like their increasingly weird nonsense about games. It's like, this is going to ruin this game. People like Hogwarts 1 because it is a big single player story based game.
right.
If they're going to go like, oh, now you can do co-op missions with your friends or co-op assignments or shit like that. But like, no, don't do it. It
Yeah,
it's what ruined Shadow of War. Shadow of Mordor was a superb game. Shadow of War was not.
yeah,
And it's was direct. I think it was directly because of what like WB said. Like, no, we got to sell loot boxes. We got to sell these orc
hmm
packs. And it's like,
and then
no,
they had to wind up removing them.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, you just fucked this up even further because what you claimed was supposed to be this great thing wasn't, and now you got to fix it.
That's another game too that I'm surprised. I guess some of that has to be. I wonder how much of that you have to involve Embracer because they own the
Yeah,
Lord
I
of the
mean, like,
Rings IP. Like, how do we not have a remaster of Shadow of Mordor? At least at
see,
this point.
I imagine it could be done fairly easily, but Embracer probably want a bigger cut than they want to pay. And I don't know how much. I don't know actually how well that game would sell because it's not like that Lord of the Rings Amazon series is critically acclaimed or people love it or anything. So I think Lord of the Rings as like a franchise isn't doing great either.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about whether you like the new series or not,
Yeah, Rings
but
of Power. Yeah,
it it's one of these things where it's like, okay, Batman is Batman. I think there's an inherent thing with Batman where even the VR game has drawn so many people in that I think I've seen people say that they bought the MetaQuest for that because it looks actually really good, or they already have the MetaQuest for Batman Arkham Shadow, and then so that'll bring you in. But that's also a more kind of traditional Batman game, right? It's a Batman game just with the VR,
Right.
where that's what people want, right? They didn't really want Suicide Squad. They just shoehorned that in because they need to make money from it. But you look at this output that they've released in this year. It's essentially 3 live service games. I mean, I know Harry Potter Quidditch Champions is just like multiplayer. They don't not really trying to push the live service with that, but that thing got tied into PS Plus and then it released and nobody talked about it.
Right.
And they don't even mention it in when they talk about like, oh, there's a Harry Potter thing that we're doing. It's there. It exists, I guess. Right. And so the only thing that they have left that we know of is the Wonder Woman game, which is made by the same studio that made the Shadow of Mordor games.
Yeah,
so, like, that's cool. Let's see what happens with that.
Right. I mean, did you see the rumor that they're going to remake Arkham Asylum?
That didn't surprise me, but I guess if you're gonna try to restart Rocksteady off of this terrible crap that they had to endure and lose people at the studio and everything else, which is the worst part of it. I guess start there.
The problem with remaking that game a little is you can't get, obviously you can't get the Batman voice actor back, Kevin Conroy, or the Harley Quinn voice actress back. I mean, some of the people have died for sure.
Yes, unfortunately.
And I just don't have faith in current Rocksteady that, like, even if they had the money to pull it off, I don't think they have the talent to pull it off.
Yeah, that's sad, man. Because used to Rocksteady said they're making a game, even though yes, it's Batman. Like, you're excited already. You're like, oh, I want the next whatever Batman.
Yeah, it was like a certain level of quality, or at least a certain cachet. But like, they've had 3 or 4 bombs now, and like half, most of the people who are responsible, like, if you looked at like all the people like from Arkham Asylum still left at that studio, it's probably like less than like 30 people.
Right.
And I doubt like the QA lead from Arkham Asylum, if he's still Rocksteady, he's like, oh, he's the linchpin of this whole thing. He's gonna like pull it all together. Like, no, it'd be like the directors, programmer, stuff like that. And I imagine most of them are gone, or even like the writers. Like,
but
I don't.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I just don't like how their games are written right now. Also,
yeah. So. It's just like one of these weird things with Warner Bros. Like, I get it, David Zaslav is all there to make money with all these things, and this is what gaming is now. Unfortunately, everything has to make a crap ton of money because it's AAA or it has big IP behind it, so therefore it can't just exist.
No,
right?
Like, that's the thing is, I prefer like a AA game or like something smaller. Like,
I would too, but apparently,
I mean,
I would hope that that's what this is. Like, I would hope that they would look at this and say, how about we make smaller games and not necessarily everything has to be this monumentous, like, huge thing that we put money into. It's like $300 million is huge amount for games. And like, and who knows how much they spent on this Quidditch game, which also is probably going to wind up being that as well.
I don't think they necessarily spent a ton on the Quidditch game because, I think it was kind of just like a spin-off of the Hogwarts game, or
exactly, yeah, that was going to be in Hogwarts. Like I said, they just kind of took it off.
But Zaslav is going like, oh, we need hits or whatever. But it's like, yeah, look at your film division then. Like, the last 7 DC movies bombed horribly. Like, you're canceling movies like that Looney Tunes movie with John Cena, which, hey, that probably wouldn't have been like a big success, but it would have made some money. because it's not like a $200 million movie. It cost $50 million or whatever. So that's fine, put it out. But when you have what is it, Aquaman 2, that cost him 200 million to make and only made 400 million. That ain't good.
No. It's not. It's like, also, if you look at the list of games that they come out, not even before this year or the year before, it's like outside of Mortal Kombat,
right?
It's like, and Hogwarts Legacy is like, what? Okay, Lego games, all right, those do decently, right, depending on the property.
Yeah,
and the rest of it's like, okay, ports of Batman, and okay, you still had Gotham Knights on there, Back for Blood, which was okay, fine. None of this was like, I get why we're going back, right, and focusing on these franchises, but it's like you just run the risk of just watering it down. You're pulling an Activision kind of thing of it, of just, I hope that there's some creativity in here and not just, okay, where's the next Mortal Kombat, next Harry Potter, next whatever DC thing we're going to come out with. I guess if it's going to be Batman Arkham Asylum remake, don't just keep churning that stuff out. Like, at least hopefully allow for some creativity, spin-off ability, and not just, okay, we need to start making this stuff faster, start doing all this, and then all of those franchises are now in the same boat. Like, what does Injustice 3 ever happen because of this? It is technically DC, right? You could technically go that route. It'd be nice if something like that could exist, but it seems like it's not.
Like I always said, they should have made a console version of that WWE Immortals game.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
That would have been awesome.
Because it would have been a good WWE game for one, and it would have been creative.
Yes, but all right, I think we've kind of gotten to the point with this. It seems very much like similar to the what we talked about with Sony last week with Concord and the whole live service thing. They will learn their lesson here, narrow the focus. Don't know if that's going to work with like what they're going to pump out, whereas Sony has the quality control and the other franchises that they can pull from to go, all right, we can just kind of go back. We're still going to have our live service stuff here, but we can go back into the well that we know we do well in with the single player, and we'll be all right.
Here's the problem with what you're saying is they don't learn. Like the second Avengers came out, that the recent Square game or whatever,
right,
and it bombed. Sony should have immediately, like, I don't even think Concord was like a dream at that point, but they should have gone like, no, we're not going to do this. And Suicide Squad was already in development, I think, at that time, and they should have gone,
right,
no, stop.
Like, especially after the big delay, right, that they did.
Yeah, because that game was like came out. Yeah, initially it was like, I think it was like 2022 or something, or like 2023.
Exactly.
Like, no, we're gonna delay it like a year and a half for quality issues, and it's like, how was it? How bad was it then? Or let's play that version.
But I feel like it's the same thing with Concord, like where it's just like, we spent so much money on this, we got to try to put it out and see if it does something.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the problem, is like, we can't just decide to cancel this now. It's too big for us to cancel and eat all of the cost instead of putting it out and seeing if we can recoup some of that cost. Unfortunately, with Sony's end on Concord, they end up eating all of the cost anyway. I don't know what Suicide Squad is for them at all, but especially because Suicide Squad was even more expensive. It was a $70 game. So, yeah.
I mean, Concord shouldn't have come out, period, I guess. But, Suicide Squad came out, and it damaged the brand, or
it damaged the studio's reputation for sure.
Yeah, and more than whatever pittance it got money-wise, because no one bought it in the first place. So,
but I think over time, you tell people that they're remaking Batman Arkham Asylum with Rocksteady. I think you will get people to give them a fair shake again. Yeah,
if like the original Rocksteady guy was like, all right, I'm back, or I'm
Right.
consulting on this, or I have a part in it. But if it's like, okay, current Rocksteady's doing this, it's like, no fucking way.
Yeah. Well, we still got plenty of time before then, plenty of time before Hogwarts Legacy 2.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, credit to Avalanche again. Just want to say this before just to end it on a positive note of they made a fantastic game with all of the other stuff that they had that the studio unfortunately had to deal with because of somebody's mouth that happens to, control the IP.
Right.
Um,
They made a
yeah,
good game. It's not
yeah,
WB.
they made a good game beyond all the other crap they had to deal with. And
Yeah.
I'm glad that people got to experience that game and people enjoyed it, and it did the actual legacy of the franchise beyond that this one person good, and that it can be counted on as a pillar. It's good that can have a really great single player game. So
Yeah.
but the thing that Harry Potter also is, or at least Hogwarts Legacy, is a open world kind of big game. And interesting that there was a interview with Famitsu that Nagoshi-san did. Of course, the former Sega director with RGG Studio, he went off, now had his own studio at NetEase that he's now creating his own game. They're kind of still in those planning stages. But he brought up something interesting that kind of wanted to get your take on. And just because we're still seeing these big sort of, if not open world, open zone type games, he looks at it and he says, looking at the situation, I think that the number of console games in the lives of ordinary game fans may be a little excessive. There are still many titles being released, but I feel that the era of games where the volume is the selling point is coming to an end. And he goes on and says that they're now in the mass production phase for assets, and that at one point they had made, because, experience with Like a Dragon, Yakuza, all that, made this big map with lots of streets and roads and stuff. And then they've slowly been paring that down and saying, okay, let's actually make this a smaller map. It doesn't need to be that dense. Do you think that he has a point that this whole era of, let's say, I guess the Ubisoft sort of syndrome of big map world and all that, big open world is what automatically makes your game great instead of having more of a focus?
It's a bit more on quality versus quantity. Like, yeah, Ubisoft maps or Assassin's Creed maps are huge, but they're pretty dense. They're pretty sparsely populated.
Right.
And if you compare that to a Yakuza map, traditional Kamurocho, that's a very small map if you really look at it, but it's incredibly dense and multi-layered, or go upstairs in some buildings and crap like that. So I think he does kind of have a point, but I mean he's making a new game here, so you kind of have to have a new map. Can't just use Kamurocho again, obviously.
Right.
And I think it has to be interesting. I guess the one outlier is GTA 5. They have a large map, but most of it is interesting, and there's stuff to do, and it's different than this. The downtown LA city is different from the outskirts Nevada city, for example. And people like that distinction.
Yeah, I think that's the main part of it. Is it's not, you don't need to make it this huge thing that you keep going on and on, going through. It's, if you're going to have an open world, make it an open world that's fun to explore, that's has different biomes in it that you want to go to, and not make it feel like it's sort of the same thing. It's also the gameplay aspects of it, right? If you're just going to a new biome, but it's the same stuff over and over, sort of like the Rebirth syndrome, which is also sort of like the Ubisoft syndrome of, hey, go to new area, but you're doing the same stuff.
Right.
That's
I mean,
not that fun. Right.
That was a problem. That was actually kind of a big problem in Rebirth, where it's like, okay,
Right.
I'm in this new area. 4 of the 5 things I have to do in this area are the same thing I did in the last one, and the
Right.
5th one is like a very slight variation on something, but not really. So it's like, great. I guess I'll go hunt down these towers and do the stupid strategy mini game.
To be fair, then not everything can be as great as Queen's Blood, but you know,
That's a bespoke thing, and that's
yeah,
like I would have rather had like one more like actual good side activity than 4 of the lame ones in Rebirth. Like cut out this tower defense virtual bullshit and make something fun.
yeah. The was it Gambits and
Whatever the fuck. Yeah,
yeah,
that was
that's
terrible.
no. Now the actual Four Condor one was good. It's just a little bit more difficult than the one that was in the Yuffie DLC, but yeah, I could have done with more Four Condor and less of the Gambits one. That was
Right. I mean, yeah,
fairly
it's like
annoying.
program the robots and shit, and I was like, oh
Yes,
god.
I really don't want to be doing this, but all right, I'll do it so that I can, get the actual like the
R-
thing that you're going to chase. The story part of it was actually good. It's just the
Right.
stuff that you're having to do to get there is not. But I think
Yeah.
he has a point. I think people are starting to get to that aspect of I think
I
similar
mean,
to we thought we start with Star Wars Outlaws too, right? Where it's like some of this going to this area and
yeah,
it's
that's
not
the thing is it's just not impressive anymore,
right,
especially when 80% of the map is just desolate or yeah, and outlaws are just going past on a speeder anyway. So who cares? I would just rather had like fast travel, like more like 2 or 3 more fast travel points and deal with any of this bullshit. You
right.
know. So yeah, I mean, it's not like yeah, it's not like oh you're in a big city or this big world or something. It's like okay, compare that to like No Man's Sky where that has thousands of big worlds, or even like Cyberpunk, where it has like this
Starfield had the
real,
same issue where a lot of
yeah,
people thought you're gonna go to all these planets, there's gonna be something great, and then it's like a lot of it is just
yeah,
okay.
barren, or it may have like
Yeah,
one thing on it if you're lucky, and it's like okay, cool.
right.
That's
So
what that note,
I think his point that he's making is that like it's no longer we have to have a big world. That's going to be the catch. You tell somebody that there's an open world in here, it's not automatic that somebody's going to go, I want this. It's
right?
you have to show me what's in this world now, and you have to justify why am I going to spend 50 hours exploring this world? Uh,
Well,
yeah,
it's like that Light No Fire game from Hello Games coming out whenever, where
yeah.
it's like okay, instead of No Man's Sky where you have 1,000 worlds, it's like you know we're all on this one planet together.
Mhm.
It's like how is this gonna work? Like you can say that, but we'll see with
But
this.
look how long it took, even with regular No Man's Sky. Look how long it took them to make that game what he said it
Right.
was. Right?
Yeah.
You can't afford really to do that anymore.
Yeah.
It's they gave Sean Murray that time, and he was able to buy himself that time. He was and people were able to give him enough sort of goodwill after a while to make good on that promise. But games have to like come out on fire now. You know, look what
Right.
happened to Starfield, right? The mixed reaction with Starfield, and that's really hurt that game, unfortunately. I still
Yeah.
did pretty decently sales wise, and there are a lot of people played it and everything like that, but it's didn't have this massive reception that I think they really wanted for that game.
Yeah. It didn't
Um,
have like, the 10 years of Skyrim, or it's not going to be
right.
20 years down the line. People are going to still be talking about like they are with Skyrim.
Yeah, exactly. People are already wanting the next Elder Scrolls, the next Fallout thing from them instead of, oh man, I want more Starfield, right?
Yeah.
Very it's smaller the amount of people that are saying, I mean, I want the next Starfield thing because even the DLC for a lot of people, it was like, okay, this wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be, you know.
Right.
And I feel that Negotiation's right in that way, in that you can't promise. You have to now deliver on why we're going to experience this big world. And I think a lot of more games are. That's why we're seeing, I think, a lot more open zone and not so much open world, because there's less you have to promise, because there's a certain area that you go into. Okay, we only have to create so much for this area, and then that's it, right?
Right.
As much as you want to hate on that 16, what Final Fantasy 16 was, I liked a lot of the areas that you go in. It wasn't fully explorable or well, 7 was also like sort of open zone, but it was bigger in that way. Rebirth. But I still liked that what they did give you in 16. It was cool to explore and see. It's just some of a lot of the stuff around it, the side quests and whatever they have you do, is not great. So it feels like, what's the point of going through and trying to find things in this world, because side quests are great. But all right, moving on from both of those things here to Nintendo, which finally we are going to talk about something that they've been kind of notorious for doing recently. But thankfully, there's some actual like good things to talk about Nintendo when you're not talking about their games, and it's something that feels like has felt like a no duh thing for a while, but there was always that creeping feeling of like, what if they don't do it? If there's one company that could decide that, screw it, we're not going to do backwards compatibility, it's Nintendo, because they have a bad, sometimes they could be as great as different games that they had that we all enjoy. They could be a little bit anti-consumer at times, so finally they have announced officially, Fukuhara has announced that Switch 1 and Switch 2 backwards compatibility is happening. So rest assured, everyone, your digital, even though he didn't listen, the physical games are going to be part of it too, because I think if physical games were not going to be included, I think they would have said this already. So pretty sure physical games and digital games will work, that you bought on Switch 1 will work on Switch 2. Whatever the heck they're going to announce it, because he said, once again, they're not breaking the fiscal timeline that they said they were going to do, which is somewhere between now and March 2025. But do you feel like this was inevitable, or did you worry about backwards compatibility at all for this?
No, I was pretty sure it was going to be this was going to happen. Like, I'll be curious if it's going to be the exact same form factor, or if like the Switch 2 may just have like two different two different slots on it, like the old DSi or DS. Like, here's the Game Boy slot, here's the DS slot.
That feels like the best way to go around it, because hopefully there wouldn't, especially if the dock is going to be actually pulling some power this time. Like, are you going to have different carts and all that? They can do this, and therefore you do what that similar thing. I hope so, for the people that do physical games.
I'll be more curious what happens if I plug my Switch flash card into it. What'll happen?
Did you see the Donkey Kong Nintendo World?
I saw like some pictures from it and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yep, it's a Donkey Kong theme park, or it's
it looks cool.
Part.
I like the rhythm games being included in there too. That's we're embracing that part of Donkey Kong. That's great.
Yeah.
One day, Navy, I will get to go and see that.
Well, I mean, you got that Universal one close to you, at least.
Yes.
Okay. Like, if I wanted to go to one of those, it'd be fucking going on an 8-hour plane ride or something.
Yeah, I wish I had, like, I barely have enough to like get to the Rebirth concert that I'm going to in a few weeks. I wish I had more money saved up so I could go, because that's one of the things I really wanted to go to for sure.
Right.
One of these times, definitely will. But unfortunately, for folks that hate hearing this from the Nintendo side, they're involved in that suit with Power World, which they did kind of counteract that this week, kind of bringing up the whole, all these patents that Nintendo is kind of talking or against us. We're all actually brought out after we released our game. So how much does this really affect them at all? We'll see what goes on if a judge is going to go with that or not. But the thing that's happening this week is Nintendo has now sued a streamer, Jesse Kagan, under the username Every Game Guru, for continually, which he just did again with Mario and Luigi Brothership, continuously streaming games that basically have been leaked out and are emulated before release. And they're alleging that he's done this more than 50 times total. They've sent him continuous cease and desist letters, continuous. They've gotten YouTube and Twitch to shut down his channel, all this stuff, and he keeps doing it. So Nintendo has basically said, "Oh, okay, you're basically laughing in our face at this point. We're going to, file a suit." And, they're alleging basically that this is taking money from them. Not only that, but he's also putting in links for like ROM repository sites and things like that, which is, getting people to continue, go find their games illegally. Also, Nintendo apparently now owns the domain for the Ryujinx emulator, which, we talked about the rumors beforehand that they had struck a deal with one of the devs to basically get them to stop working on that and shut it down. So what do you think about it? Is this this is kind of one of those, like, you're asking for it, right? Like there's no other end of the spectrum here, I think.
There's a big difference between, like, if you go to a shop and they have like Brothership off for sale for 3 days early or something,
right?
You buy it and start streaming it. Like, that's on the shop's fault technically, but it ain't on you. And if you show like a legitimate receipt for this thing, be like, here you go. I hope they drill him into the ground. Like, the fact that he's pirating a game and then profiting off the piracy. It's like, what? Like,
yeah, I think this is, to me, this is a lot different than, say, okay, we're gonna, which again, not advocating, again, y'all that go around emulating games before they come out, and you're not even thinking about buying the game at all. That ain't right. I'm sorry. You can say that, Nintendo's a big company, they can deal with it, whatever.
But the
thing is, he's going beyond that and basically promoting the fact that he emulated a game and telling everybody, "Hey, I got this. I didn't, like you said, I didn't go buy this game legitimately at a store that just happened to break street date. I went and decided that I'm gonna pirate your game, profit off of it, and then show other people how to do it, basically, or where they can do it themselves." And it's like, that's just beyond, the
I would say
Switch
piracy isn't, like, ultimately it's not like the biggest problem.
No, it's not.
Consoles that
they're doing fine. It's not like,
No, what I was gonna say is, like, consoles that have had bad piracy problems, like the PSP or the Dreamcast, like, that's why they had shortened lifespans, because it's becoming a rampant problem. So it's like, oh, here you go.
Yeah, I'm sure this is not going to probably end up very well for him. Don't know if this is going to result in, like,
They'll break his fingers
or anything for him, but
break his fingers and his computer. Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, there's always been precedent set for this thing with the guy that's, like, basically paying money for the rest of his life for the ROM sites. So I don't know, man. If I was people at this point, just stop messing with Nintendo this way. Like, you're not.
Here's the thing. Like, I believe in emulation, but only of, like, the last generation, or if you can't, like, easily buy it in a store.
I agree. I'm the same way. Like, old games, you want to do that, go for it. Not games that are available for sale right now.
let's say, let's say I was poorer or poorer than I am now, and I only had a Switch and a flash card. Hey, I'd be tempted to like start downloading games, like if I really wanted it, like if I didn't really want to play Zelda or something. But what I wouldn't do is start, me live streaming me doing it, or
Yeah.
be
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It's like, dude, keep that to yourself. You want to do that? Cool. Keep that to yourself. Don't
like,
make it a big deal.
let's say this: do you have a hacked PSP?
I don't.
Okay, I
Yeah.
do. Everyone did, or most people I know did, because it was extremely easy to do.
Right.
But you weren't like online going like, oh hey, I just downloaded uh the resistance game for it, or stuff like.
Yeah. Like, I understand the people that build like the communities around it and they have the discords and all that stuff for that. Like, okay, cool. We used to do that in person back in the day.
Yeah,
Or you could do that over the phone with somebody or whatever, and that's fine. Those things get broken into. Nintendo's been good about finding those and whatever. I mean, I feel like that's kind of going beyond it, but again, that's Nintendo. That's how crazy they are about their IP and their system, and they have every right to do that.
right.
I frown upon that more than just like you're making this way too obvious. You're basically goading them into suing you, and now they've
Right.
done that, and now it's like, I guess hopefully this is a lesson to anybody else that wants to do that. Like, watch out, because
Yep.
they'll come after you if you
Yeah.
become a big enough nuisance. But going on from one thing to another, because I guess this affects scalpers. The PlayStation 5 Pro, according to President COO Hiroki Totoki's $700 price, is not negatively impacting sales because hardcore users are the target of this hardware. And then there's been a story going on that basically scalpers have had to sell this thing at a loss because you can buy a PS5 Pro wherever you want right now. This thing's not selling out. Same thing with the PS4 Pro. That didn't sell out either.
Right.
But mileage may vary on whether you think the reviews are out there, Digital Foundry, all those, anybody that you want to go use as the metric about whether or not you want to go buy this or not.
I mean,
I
Yen's
mean,
got his.
yeah, I mean, but was he ever gonna come out and go, "Oh yeah, we charge too much for this"? Like, did anybody ever expect him to go, "Yeah, we probably should have made it $600 instead"? Like,
Yeah.
he's not gonna say that, right? Like, not when it just went on sale anyway. Maybe like a year later, if the
Right.
sales don't really increase that much. But I mean, I just feel like it's a no in the economy and where we're in. I think it's twofold. It's, yes, the price matters. Uh, Also, you're not giving people what they got at launch, right? Which is, if you wanted to buy the original disc PS5, it costs $500, and you got the disc drive with it. You don't need the stand, by the way. That's been proven that you don't need to buy that vertical stand. So it's only the disc drive that we're talking about that you need.
Right.
So now you're essentially getting a digital PS5, which you can also buy separately. But still, like, it's still a whole like hassle for people too. Like, okay, now I have to go decide if I want to go trade in my PS5. How long is GameStop gonna give these prices for the PS? Once they get to like mass stock with the PS5, they're eventually gonna keep lowering the price
Yeah.
of how much you get back for that thing. So at some point, the return that you get on trading in your original PS5 is not going to be great. So you're then spending more to get this thing that's also very arbitrary. It's not necessary. It's only really for the people that have never had a PS5, or you're the hardcore type that has to have the best graphics available. And then even then, it's very negligible. Like, most of the reviews, as we've said from the beginning, keep saying, like, at least for the fidelity mode, that's supposed to be like the even better graphics mode, you can barely tell. The thing you can tell is on some games like Rebirth that the performance mode was so bad from the beginning that now it's like, oh wow, now it's like playing fidelity mode, but with 60 FPS, which is great. I mean, that changes that game. But for most of the games that already ran pretty well, it's not a difference, you know? So
Yeah.
I feel like he's right in that I guess I don't know what expectations they have for the PS5 Pro, but he's not ever going to say you can't. We're thinking about maybe selling this for $100 less, but whatever.
Right.
You know, he's not going to say it had a negative impact.
I mean, it's funny, and I mean, from Jens, he said that like RoboCop at least plays better, or it's like not as fucked up as when I played it. And
But
like
that game
Stellar...
also doesn't have a PS5 Pro patch, right? Or it does?
No, I mean it's just like the boost mode, or it seemingly does help.
Yeah.
Or I think he said Stellar Blade looks good. And one game, I think there might have been like one other game, but he said it wasn't as big an improvement.
Right.
But I still think it's all nonsense. So
yeah, it's one of those like, okay, I'm gonna be honest with myself. If somebody said it's $500 and not $700, would I have traded in my PS5 and thought about it because I have the TV for it? Yeah. But trading in my PS5 and then still having to pay like $400
right.
or more, I'm like, you know what? I could use that for something else.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary. It's not, it doesn't change. My games still look great on the regular PS5. So
Yep.
unfortunately, we got to go from that to some sad news here. Tony Todd, who, I guess most recently people would know from being the voice of Venom in Spider-Man 2,
Yeah.
passed away. He's also going to be in Indiana Jones: The Great Circle, which that got a pretty big gameplay reveal today. So if you were at all kind of wondering about Indiana Jones and you don't have Game Pass and you're thinking about whether you want to buy that game, there is a 14-minute gameplay thing that you can go watch for that.
Yeah.
But getting back to Tony Todd here, I mean, obviously, I think most people are going to know him from Candyman. Any like shout outs to roles he's been in or anything you wanted to?
He was really good. He did a few Star Trek episodes over the years.
Yeah.
One in particular, he was in a DS9 episode called The Visitor, and he was like really good in it because he normally kind of plays sinister guys or evil characters. I mean, not from all accounts, he was a nice guy and everything, but like he kind of plays, he's like the Robert Englund of horror movies or something like that.
Yeah.
But in this DS9 episode, he's like a really warm and like good character. And yeah, it's really worth watching. And yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff over the years, like The Rock and
He's in the
Night
Final
of the Living.
Destination movies.
Yeah, I've never seen those. I've seen like parts of them, but not all of them. Or like that Night of the Living Dead remake.
Yeah, that remake is great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Platoon as well.
Yeah.
He was Call of Duty. He played Admiral Tommy Briggs in Call of Duty as well.
Right.
So he's done a lot.
Yeah. Also The Crow, but yeah, it's a lot like that. The when Lance Reddick passed away, I think last year. Same type of like echelon, or great actor, kind of cut down too early.
Yeah, it sucks, man. It's really, really unfortunate that he's passed away. But he leaves a great legacy. And hopefully, anyone that Insomniac had a great little
I saw that memorial
for him as well. Which definitely go find that if you can.
Yep.
But yeah, we move on from that to talking about this has been rumored in the past, but now it's official that Amazon is working, according to Variety, working on a Mass Effect TV show.
Yeah.
It's being written and executive produced by Daniel Casey. He wrote the Fast and Furious 9, and also Karam Zurich. Also worked on Jessica Jones and Ari Arad, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So some good good names on there.
No.
And then also BioWare is involved a little bit. You got Michael Gamble is also going to executive produce. So I guess gets to kind of be the person that's making sure we're talking where we're kind of giving Mass Effect a good showing on that end. Even though former writer David Gator was like he was a lead writer on the three Dragon Age games. He's like kind of cringing a little bit about Mass Effect Dragon Age getting a TV show.
Yeah.
Where are you at on Mass Effect getting a TV show with Amazon?
Well, here's a question. So Avi Arad has been trying to make a Mass Effect thing for a while, like a live action adaptation. Guess the year he originally tried this nonsense.
2012.
2008.
Wow.
So that was 16 years ago. Like there's a press release from like Wired going like,
yeah, 2010 is when Legendary Pictures tried to get a movie for it.
Yeah, but he optioned this in like 2008. So hey, it's only taken him 16 years, or not 16, or 14 years or whatever, or no, it is 16. It'll never happen.
You don't think so?
No, for a few different reasons. One, they can't even get their God of War TV show. They finally hired like Ron Moore to do it. Yeah, because the first go around sucked so hard. A few problems with Mass Effect as a TV show or adaptation or anything. One is you have a main character, but he's extremely like passive.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a Kratos or whatever.
Well, he's also a created character.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, his personality is like malleable, or I mean, he doesn't really have one. Or, the second problem is, I mean, it'll be an expensive show if they make it. I don't know if Amazon wants to spend that much money on it. And then third is it's the problem of streaming in general is, okay, let's say they make a show, it'll be an 8-episode thing like the past 500 TV show, streaming TV shows. Like, I would want a Mass Effect show to be like Star Trek and have it be lower budget. I don't need it to look exquisite. Like, I want it to have kind of a kind of a bad look to it personally.
Be careful with that, because we had that with the Halo show, and then we know how that worked.
Well, they spent money on that.
Yeah.
But that was another thing where it was only 10 episodes long. So the problem to also the Halo show, like, Master Chief wasn't the focus necessarily. So that
was the
actual problem. Yeah. Like, if he was the focus, or if they had like one or two other plot lines going, they're like, all right, fine. But they had like 8. And it's like, well, okay, 5 of these don't work. So why have this at all? So I don't think it'll happen. Mainly because Avi Arad's still involved. And, I just don't know how you do it. How you like pull it off. Like, do you get that male Dutch model guy to do it? Like, that'd be kind of funny personally, but
yeah. I mean, I think they could. I think it winds up coming out.
I think it winds up coming out, and fans are gonna be pissed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the issue too. It's like there's so many ways they can do this wrong,
because like
that's the problem.
I think Fallout kind of works because there's no like established main character in Fallout. So that's kind of like they can do whatever they want, but it'll be the problem of, it's like, no, if they're gonna make a Mass Effect show, I want Shepard, I want to be the guy has to look as much as that, male Dutch model as possible,
Mhm.
and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, well, they have to pick a canon shepherd, right? So you have to decide whether it's going to be male or female shepherd, and then you have to go from there
Right.
of like what story is canon, where are we going from here, what are we trying to tell? Because a lot of the story is created by your own decisions that you make, right?
Yeah,
So
or like if they have like Garrus in it, will it be some guy in her makeup, or will it just be some
yeah,
CGI character? Or
I mean that's kind of the thing though too, is right. It's like it has the same concept of Fallout, but it's like if you can nail the world and you nail some of the characters that are important, make sure you get them sort of right. Even though, again, a lot of the decisions of how those characters interact with you are decisions that you make. So then, therefore, it's not going to interact. Garrus is not going to interact the same way with that character as it did with maybe your version of Mass Effect, but I
right.
guess they do have the data that can go through, but I don't know how much of that they're really going to care about. Like they're gonna do this in their own way,
Yeah, and
as
they'll
we've seen.
and I think they'll
So
mess it up. It's the same problem that Daredevil show just ran into, the Disney Plus one,
right,
Break a
which
Vow or Born Again or whatever the fuck it's called. Like,
yeah,
they made like 5 episodes and they were terrible because like, those creators were trying to put their own spin on it, and it's like, no, we want this to be a Daredevil show. He needs to get in the costume 4 episodes earlier than you get him in the costume. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean,
uh,
yeah, it's the same thing with like the God of War show. We still don't know really why they're basically like having to redo so much of it. Um,
I got some
yeah,
theories.
yeah, but like I hey, look, like we've talked about, video games is kind of like that new frontier for a lot of places of just man, there's so
Yeah,
many games that have ready-made stories
yeah,
and
they mind comic books too much or too hard, so they got
yeah,
this is their last avenue.
hopefully this turns out to be a good one. Never want to see like look, I'm not the biggest fan of Mass Effect, but I know a lot of people that are, and it would suck for, you get this live action property and it's terrible, right?
Yeah,
So hopefully for the Mass Effect fans, this winds up being a good one, you know.
right.
And as has been the theme with this year with gaming, as many great releases we've had, we still have the bad news as far as layoffs and studio sell-offs and closures and things like that. Take Two announced that they officially now, this was a rumor that was going around for a while, that they have sold off the Private Division label. That's their indie label. This has been a thing. We talked about the whole Annapurna mess. We talked about, what was it, Curve?
Kerbal.
Well, that's Private Division. The Curve, like they had shut down the Kerbal studio and also the Roll 7 studio,
Right.
the All the Other World studio, that they actually officially announced that they have now been closed. Before they said something about they had like
Yeah, they
we
tried
didn't shut them
right.
down, but technically they did. Um, so now that's officially been announced as part of this. But again, like we've seen a lot of these like indie publishing labels kind of like go out. And it sucks to see because like you need these around to invest in indies. Especially when we're seeing so much of gaming, just investment is not there. And so we don't know who this got sold to. There's no discussion about this. Strauss Zelnick did not disclose that at all. But they have taken substantially the existing and unreleased titles from it. They are still going to support No Rest for the Wicked, which I know you were not a big fan of this game when it came out. It's still in early access. They're still going to support it. So the folks that bought that game and are still playing it, you can rest assured that that's still being supported. We don't know for how long. The studio's been around since the Private Division label's been around since 2017. I remember freaking writing about the story of them existing. I remember reading it in Game Informer where they made this whole big spread about all the games that were being made from the studio. Of course, probably one of the bigger ones that everybody knows is Outer Worlds came from this label. And then, of course, obviously Microsoft bought Obsidian, and now Microsoft owns that now. But the last one that most people will probably know is the Penny's Big Breakaway, that platformer, the 3D platformer.
Yeah, the Sonic thing, knockoff, or
the similar Sonic game, and then they made that Ancestors Humankind Odyssey, published it. Sorry, Salt Sea Chronicles. They also were the ones that made that deal with Game Freak for the Project Bloom, which I guess that whoever owns it now has taken that as well. Which that wasn't due to come out until their fiscal 2026 anyway. So I'm going to assume at some point we'll find out who bought them. Maybe some kind of like investment firm or something.
Yeah.
Who knows? I'm glad that those companies and games are still getting to exist. But still, hopefully this doesn't turn into like more bad news down the line for these people that are working and everything. Just always hate hearing about this stuff. So, all right, the rest of this is going to be kind of like quick hitting. We can talk about it for a little bit, or if you have a lot to say about it, I guess we can. I guess first off, talking about the Fallout TV show, Macaulay Culkin is going to be part of Fallout TV show season 2. He's going to be playing a crazy genius type character, as all the Deadline source says. We don't have a name for it or anything like that, but he's still got some Rex there for.
I can see him as an enclave scientist, or like working for the Brotherhood of Steel or something like that.
Yep. Still love Home Alone to this day. Watch it every Christmas. Considering it's the holidays, I'll probably watch it again.
I like him on Red Letter Media quite a bit.
Yeah. So he's that's cool. I mean, I think he fits in with that whole vibe of the Fallout show with all the.
I'll be curious how eccentric he is, or what body tick, or whatever he's going to do.
Yeah, we'll see what they wind up doing the more we find out about it.
Yeah.
Spyro Reignited Trilogy is coming to Game Pass tomorrow. So if you haven't played that yet, you wanted to play it on Game Pass, you could do so. Also coming to, it's already on Xbox. It's not on Game Pass. It might still be on PC Game Pass. I think not at this point. But it's on sale for $20. Death Stranding. Can you believe it? Death Stranding, 5 years after the original game was released on PS4 to the day. So that must mean they had some kind of exclusivity agreement that expired. It is out on Xbox, Play Anywhere also. So if you buy it on Xbox, you can play it on PC. It will have cloud saves, achievements, all that stuff, ultra wide monitor support if you want to play it on PC, photo mode, all that cool stuff. Again, for being $20, that's a pretty good deal. I have it on as part of PS Plus, so I don't know that I'm going to jump out and buy it. I don't know.
I have it on PC.
I
have it on PS4 and PC. So,
it was a contested game of the year, but it was our game of the year for 2019 also. As it was for a lot of people's. But they've had it come out sequentially every year since then, a version of it. They had the director's cut a few years ago, and then it came out on PC as well. That was the version that came out on Game Pass because 505 publishes it, not Sony. Of course, they have the Death Stranding 2, and of course they have the Xbox. Kojima has the Xbox OD game that they're working with them on too. But were you surprised by this? That we got Death Stranding on Xbox?
Because it's like, it'll happen eventually. So,
and also apparently Kojima owns the IP now too.
Okay.
So, according to a Japanese website. So that'll be interesting. Does that mean that there's going to be a less exclusivity window for Death Stranding 2 coming to Xbox and PC then? If Kojima owns the IP, I wonder. But yeah, I mean, look, this is a great game. I know not everybody's a fan of walking simulators, especially this game, which was very much a lot of walking, a lot of slow walking. But hey, it's still a great game, and that's cool that it's finally on Xbox. Another game that I know you liked a lot when it originally released too, Divinity Original Sin 2. It's coming to Xbox Series and PS5. Of course, the definitive edition already exists on PS4 and Xbox One, so you can play those backwards compatible. It's even on Switch also. But if you want to check out what Larian did before Baldur's Gate 3, this is a pretty great game to do that with as well. Any thoughts on?
No, yeah, it's worth. I mean, I don't like. It's not a game for you specific, like necessarily, but it's a really solid game.
Yeah. Speaking of really great games as well, Warcraft 2 Remastered is probably going to be one of the, if not the big announcement of that Warcraft 30th anniversary direct.
Yeah, well,
that's taking place in a couple days.
They already had their big Overwatch announcement today.
Yeah, that they're going to have the classic mode, which has been rumored for a long time, I feel like.
Yeah.
But what do you think about, considering how things didn't go well with that Warcraft 3 Reforged? What do you think about getting a Warcraft 2 Remastered?
I think it would probably go better, because it's like, well, if they fucked it up once, so they wouldn't do it again. But it is Blizzard after all, or current Blizzard. I don't know. Yeah. Warcraft 2 is kind of cool. I mean, I remember playing it way back in the day, but I don't have like a ton of nostalgia for it necessarily. It's just kind of like, neat.
I don't either. But I do remember playing this back in the day too, because my brother had a copy version or a copy of it, and I could play it, you know. But
I mean, I think I like that one more than like Warcraft 3, because it was just more it was a simpler game, but it was a lot more of a it was like Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2 like kind of went a little overboard with like hero units and stuff. So I think Warcraft 2 and StarCraft 1, like they're just a purer experience.
Exactly. If you like those kind of games, going back to that, I think that's going to be cool for people. Kind of see where the whole thing started for Blizzard as far as Warcraft being popular.
Right.
It started with this game. So, all right. Something I've always been. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to bring up the Amplitude news.
I did not hear that. What's going on with Amplitude?
Yeah, Sega, or Amplitude basically bought themselves out from under Sega.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, they're going to be, I think there's still like a small partnership there, but they're basically going to go independent again.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like the Microsoft and Toys for Bob thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's good.
Which is, I think it's good, because I don't think their Sega stuff was particularly great.
Yeah, hopefully they can, now they're inspired to make something that they do enjoy making, and it comes out really well.
Right.
Something I've always been curious about, since they've done this for 3 years now. How do they make the decisions on who nominates these games, and how do they make the decision about which 5 games are nominated? Because they all seem to have a pattern. And I'm talking about the Grammys for their best score soundtrack for video games or other interactive media. Because it seems like it goes into 2 pots. It's major video game franchise that everybody and their mother knows, or it has to have some kind of movie appeal to it.
Yeah.
Somehow God of War has been nominated all 3 years. Look, Bear McCreary is amazing. Okay, not gonna hate on that. God of War soundtrack is awesome. Okay, but like last year we nominated the actual God of War Ragnarok. This year we couldn't find any other game to put in this spot. We had to nominate the DLC. Who makes these decisions? It's like, okay, I can kind of understand Star Wars Outlaws. I can understand Marvel Spider-Man 2. I can kind of understand Avatar, whatever. I don't know what this wizardry game is. I'm gonna assume it has to do with wizardry as far as like that whole historic, you know, wizardry and like RPG.
Right.
But Final Fantasy, you know, like
that's not important.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, there's games that have amazing soundtracks that are like we're not even where is the list of games that you're considering? Like it's always the same. The same. The last year was the same thing. It was like Assassin's Creed DLC, God of War Ragnarok again. It's like
My problem with DLC is kind of like how many new songs are there, or like how if there's like under 20 new songs, I'd be like, nope, not counting this one.
yeah, it's like a Star Wars. Okay, Star Wars game again. Like Call of Duty, a big major franchise. It's Hogwarts Legacy. Oh, it's Harry Potter. Oh, and then the only one that like kind of makes sense, Stray Gods, because it was a role playing musical. Okay, cool. I'm glad we gave that some play. And I'm not hating on any of those scores. Also, Alien Fireteam Elite, because again, it has some kind of movie tie-in. Like, why these don't? This is not like the Oscars deciding this. This is a music award. You know, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but how many of those people are gonna like? It's a recognizable name or franchise, and then how many people are gonna like listen to like some game that like sold 3 copies or whatever?
No, I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying, like, okay, when we talk about the history of music in video games, you're gonna tell me that Final Fantasy 16 or Rebirth could not be nominated for this thing, and we're gonna put the DLC of God of War Ragnarok, which already got nominated last year. Like, I don't know. It just feels weird. Like, do they just pick 5 games out of a list and go, okay, these are the ones that I happen to know, and that's how we get nominated? It's just weird.
Yeah, probably.
I would like to know how this happens.
Yeah.
You kind of did it out of order. I was thinking you would put the Amplitude news here when we talked about this, but just last small news story here. Sega is delisting its classics collection from Steam, Xbox, Switch, and PlayStation. Actually,
Yeah.
the entire collection is being delisted from all of them, but certain games are being delisted individually also from Steam and Xbox as well. So you can go look this up. Steam, it almost feels like it's every single game. They just did it individually there. Xbox is
Right.
like some games, and then they're just listing the collection from PlayStation and Switch. You can still play the Switch Online version of those games separately. You just can't buy them as part of the collection. And this is going to happen on December 6th. So if you want to have all those games in a collection, which there's some pretty great games in all of these, if you're the retro gamer, pretty much like any like major Sega game that came out in the Genesis to does also include Saturn or just Genesis? And it's just Genesis and Mega Drive, right?
No, it has a few Dreamcast games in there, but like it's like a really weird hodgepodge of stuff.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great games here, and a lot of times they have this on sale for like $20 or even less. So if you find it on sale, which I wouldn't, that's how I got it too. It was like on sale for $20 too on Steam. Like if you find it on sale again before the 6th, I would buy it just because of the whole like video game history kind of thing, or just if you like retro games at all, I would get that because they'll be gone and then be harder to find. Not that they don't have other classic collections or whatever and other systems, but these are the more like widely available ones. So again, worth checking out there. But all right, I think that's going to do it for the show here. Let's quickly go through the games that are coming out this week. The big one for most people, I think, especially if you're an RPG fan, especially a classic RPG fan that have been waiting on this for a long while. Dragon Quest III HD 2D remake is finally coming out on the 14th. I'm happy that people are going to get to play this. I know there's so many people I keep seeing that like, I'm waiting for this game to download, for the thing to upload and download and get to play this. It's going to be out on everything essentially. So yeah, Also, the same day, you can go check out that Lego Horizon Adventures. That's, of course, on PS5, PC, and Switch. So, you didn't get that Horizon Zero Dawn remastered. I guess you can go get this and play this with your kids.
Yeah.
End
game.
Yeah. The newest trailer that they had for it was pretty cool. I will say. It was a pretty fun trailer that they made for it. Tetris Forever, the latest in the line of like collection, but also history games.
All right.
Are you interested in this, or you want to?
I may get it because it at least has Tetris Battle Guide in, so that's cool.
Yeah, lots of cool. Josh, who's with Outer Haven, he's been reviewing it. For him particularly, they didn't have like any of the games that like he remembers playing with Tetris, but he says it's a pretty good collection overall for people that are fans of Tetris. Farming Simulator 25, that's the game everybody's been waiting on, right?
Yep, that's my game of the year.
But maybe game of the year contender because the first game of this series, Rise of the Golden Idol, second game in the series, is coming out also tomorrow. I know there's a lot of people that are waiting on this. This is coming out on everything as well. Definitely go give this a whirl. Astroneer has a new DLC, Glitch Walkers. It's coming out also on the 13th. So go check that out too. And yeah, man, there's quite a bit of good stuff coming this week for sure for people.
Yeah.
Hopefully you find something that you want to go check out. And that Flight Simulator also.
That's what I really want. I actually do want that, but I don't have the hard drive space or,
you can't just delete stuff for it?
No, I could, but it's a big game, so.
Yeah. For sure. But yeah, definitely go check out what you might be interested in on whatever system it is that you play your games on. We will be back next week. Until then, everybody, if you enjoyed the show, like, subscribe, follow on the YouTube channel, or find us on podcasts. We do this every Monday. It'll be out on podcast a little bit later, but it still comes out usually like Monday or Tuesday or Monday at midnight-ish, somewhere in there. And follow us on Blue Sky at W. Tim Sean over there at Humanity Playing for Marc. And we'll see y'all later.
Later.